are those moments when I go, man, how'd this happen? I mean, how can this be my life?
The actor, Christopher Reeves, has been paralyzed and needs a respirator to breathe. He broke his neck last weekend after being thrown by a horse during a show jumping competition. The doctors will not speculate on whether the paralysis may be permanent.
For over 4 years, Christopher Reeve let us follow his battle to overcome the effects of his paralyzing accident. With unique and intimate access, we watched the private man fighting for recovery and the public man fighting for change.
I'm a C2 ventilator-dependent quadriplegic, and that means that I'm paralyzed from the shoulders down and unable to breathe on my own for the last 7 years. I've not been able to eat, wash, go to the bathroom, or get dressed by myself. Now, some people are able to accept living with a severe disability. I am not one of them.
We witnessed Chris's determination to change widespread understanding of paralysis.
He actually commanded his finger and he said, "Move," and it moved. And he would say, "Move," and it would move.
He's starting to see things that we really didn't think were possible. And maybe it's because nobody in his condition ever worked that hard for this long.
I've just decided I won't listen to the rules. I mean, how many people are walking around and been told by a doctor that, "Oh, I'm sorry, you've got 6 months to live." It's just a hell of a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But that's no excuse. Just got to keep going.
At home in Westchester County, New York, Chris's hard work was constant proof of his commitment to recovery. In the 7.5 years following the accident, his unwavering will to get out of the wheelchair pushed him beyond the limits of his condition. With the ongoing support of his family and medical staff, he refused to give up. But before he could consider the possibility of walking, Chris needed to overcome a major hurdle: to breathe alone.
I remember the day when I was evaluated in St. Louis to find out whether my diaphragm was functional or not. They decided that my diaphragm didn't work at all. And I was absolutely devastated by that. Couldn't understand it because I'd been working hard. So I thought, that's it. Diaphragm's gone. Nothing we can do. That was a real low point.
So that's what we found. I didn't have to tell you what the...
No, I understand.
Yeah.
A previous examination had suggested that Chris wouldn't be able to breathe without his ventilator. Unconvinced, he underwent another, more sensitive test.
What I really want to do is get an assessment of where I stand, so to speak, with regards to the condition of the diaphragm, to see where to go from there.
I can hunt for your phrenic nerve. I have the stimulator ready. Mm-hmm. I can hunt for your phrenic nerve. Most of the time we can find it. We can't.
The phrenic nerve helps the diaphragm to contract, which allows the body to breathe.
The diaphragm excursion we get with electrical stimulation of your nerve through your skin.
This time the test showed that Chris's phrenic nerve was active. Not only that, it was strong enough for Chris to put himself forward for an experimental operation to fit a pacemaker.
No breakdown. No.
Expert in a new form of diaphragm stimulation is surgeon Dr. Ray Onders of University Hospitals in Cleveland.
Chris is very New York Times. He actually saw one of our discussions at our previous conference. Christopher Reeve stays up to date on the knowledge in the quadriplegic research. He knows what's going on. He learned what we were researching, and he contacted us to see if he was a candidate. And so he's interested because we offer something that can help him and other patients.
It can be approached either through the chest or through the abdomen. Which really started this in the past is when...
Chris was to be fitted with a pacemaker to stimulate his phrenic nerve through muscles in his diaphragm. If successful, he'd be able to breathe without the ventilator.
As soon as I even mentioned it to Chris, he went right out and got the next test to make sure that his phrenic nerve is intact. Our goal is to allow a patient to breathe the way that he was born to breathe. Be able to breathe more normally through the use of his own diaphragm. It is very hopeful that through the use of his own muscle, his desire, we're hopefully going to have this work and get him off the ventilator.
But before the operation, Chris travelled to Australia at the invitation of New South Wales Premier Bob Carr. Away from his personal fight for recovery, Chris headed a very public and sometimes controversial campaign to help find potential cures for disability and improve the lives of disabled people.
It was a perfect touchdown for the plane carrying one of Australia's most inspirational visitors. Christopher Reeve arrived from the United States this morning. There was some controversy when it was revealed last year New South Wales taxpayers are footing the one...
Well, when it was first announced that I was coming down here, somehow I got out and made the front page in the press that it was going to cost the government of New South Wales $130,000 to bring me down here. And I felt bad about it, but I hope that the money we're going to raise is going to far outweigh the cost of bringing me down here, and will justify it.
Chris had come to argue the case for stem cell research, in particular that involving stem cells from specially created embryos, a contentious field of science severely restricted in the US, but moving forward in countries like the UK and Australia. These cells have the potential to become any cell in the human body and have huge medical possibilities. The events Chris and his family attended were to support further research.
We're going to have a big fundraising dinner. We're expecting about 1,100, 1,200 people, which is pretty good considering everybody's on vacation down here. And we hope, if all goes well, to make about $1 million for the Prince of Wales Research Institute. If we can do that, I'll really feel that the trip is justified.
As a celebrity living with disability, Chris brought the complex debate about stem cell research to the fore.
I want to speak just for one moment about the particular branch of stem cell technology which is known as therapeutic cloning. The fear that therapeutic cloning, if allowed, will lead inevitably down the, quote, slippery slope to reproductive cloning is an absolute falsehood. And the decision that is made about stem cells has incredibly important repercussions for the future. I mean, to conquer diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, leukemia, cancer, heart disease, now we've got a chance to do something about it. But it's very, very hard to sit in a wheelchair. Then to know that something could be done about it, and that if it's not going to be done, it's very hard to look those people in the eye and say, sorry. We have an ethical debate, and we're all hung up, and we don't know when there's going to be an answer. And that's really cruel. Thank you so much, and let's have a great time.
Before going home, Chris was also able to spend some valued time with his family.
Do you get my message?
No, can you say something?
7:20.
I've come down with Dana, Will, Matthew, 4 nurses, 3 aides. Unfortunately, Alexander couldn't come because he got to be at school. It's quite a group.
Just like you, Will.
It's a lot more quiet than Will was.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's debatable.
Here, come say hi to Daddy.
Do you remember?
Look at this one.
Hello, sweetheart. Hi there.
No, I said it's more quiet than Will.
You have big brown eyes. Hello.
He starts.
Sometimes it can get a little lonely going on the road to cities where I don't know anybody. So when there's somebody from the family with me, it makes it go a lot better.
But this is very typical of koalas in New South Wales or Queensland.
I'm really glad that the trip down here is not all work because, Australia is a really extraordinary place. This is paradise. I've already joked that we're going to sell everything we have and move down here. But there's work to be done back home and just have to face the cold weather and get on with it.
On his return, Chris embarked on the pioneering diaphragm pacemaker operation. If successful, it would bring independence from some of his 24-hour nursing care and the obvious impracticality of the ventilator.
Christopher has an injury that occurs quite frequently with people with what we call high cervical cord injuries, is where their phrenic nerve is still intact, but he can no longer control it, or the brain can no longer control the breathing. And so the diaphragm's sitting there just not working whatsoever. And so what we've developed is a way to actually stimulate the phrenic nerve through an indirect means, which is through the muscle.
Phrenic nerve stimulation has been carried out for a number of years, but carries the danger of nerve damage. This new procedure avoids direct contact with the nerve, but it's still risky. This method had only been attempted twice before, with one operation ending in failure.
I promise not to talk during the procedure.
It's starting now.
We use Dave Genetti's technique. Tell us when you're asleep so we know.
Yeah, I'll tell you when I'm asleep.
Yeah, tell us when you're asleep. Yeah.
I'll give you guys a go to cut.
As the surgery got underway, Dana and Matthew could only sit, wait, and hope.
Better than our second patient who was a failure. We kind of, as soon as we looked in, we could tell that. We need some reverse Trendelenburg. As soon as we went in, I could tell that his diaphragm did not look like our second patient's diaphragm, and it looked as good or better than our first patient's diaphragm, much better than I expected it to look on somebody that has had his injury for nearly 8 years. So he actually has no adhesions from his other gastrostomy too. So I'm not, maybe this is the one that didn't work.
This minimally invasive technique required just 3 small incisions in Chris's abdomen. His diaphragm was then inflated with air.
Where we literally just stab it into the abdomen. Once we looked in there and saw that his diaphragm was capable, I had to find the motor point. In his case, there's just 2 little difficult aspects, is that where his motor point was right by his heart. And so we had to be very careful in placing the electrodes. There for one.
Cautiously, the team had to locate sensitive areas for the 4 electrodes within the left and right side of Chris's diaphragm.
The electrode that we actually place in the diaphragm, there's actually just a tiny little barb. I mean, this wouldn't hurt anything. This will deploy in the muscle fibers and allows me to just leave that electrode right in the muscle fibers, and then the wire will actually come up through his skin.
Once the most sensitive area had been found, the electrodes were carefully positioned.
So what we're going to do is the barb's right there, so we got to get that barb to catch. I mean, I think that first electrode is definitely better than this electrode, but at least we got both above and below.
With the electrodes in place, their wires were fed out of Chris's upper chest, ready to be connected to the diaphragm pacemaker, a small battery pack that stimulates the muscle and phrenic nerve.
We actually placed the wires on his left side. This is the side that was better for him, because Dana puts her head on the right side when he's sleeping. So we didn't want the wires to affect his personal habits.
Surgery's all done?
Yeah, it went well.
I was supposed to give you a big kiss. So I'm gonna...
It went very well. Actually,
Boom Boom DeMarco told me.
It went a lot better than we thought. I mean, we got volumes that we've never seen before. Actually, we had not done the trains before, but we actually, at the end of the case, we got a volume of 700 cc's with no conditioning, not even using our maximal amplitude. So that's very good. So it went very well.
That's
great. It really could not have gone better in our great experience of 2 other cases.
Right,
So.
well, I will say, Chris likes being the best student in the class, so he's going to be very pleased about that. But
And he's waking up there. I mean, he's trying to time. A little groggy.
Thanks, sweetheart. Amazing.
Good.
It's incredible. Like, exceeded expectations. So awesome. I know you're groggy. Matthew's here too. You're incredible. No complications. None. No complications, and your spleen is good, your liver's good, everything's all clean in there.
No heavy camera.
Good. Good. Sleep though. Let yourself
The operation would be just the first step. Over the coming weeks, Chris revisited Cleveland for training. His diaphragm had been out of use for almost 8 years, and he had to learn to use it again with the new pacemaker.
So we just want to seal at the very end where we did the crimping. So it just pops up and comes out.
The exposed wires coming from Chris's chest were connected to the external stimulator, so he could start to breathe again.
So I don't glue it to your skin. Another thing that
is this glue from Woolworths or
Elmer's?
Oh, that was the real flight. Okay.
As the procedure is in its infancy, Chris was closely monitored by Dr. Onders and his team.
Their flight with the battery.
Today, on the second day of training, I'm feeling really pretty good about it, because it's right on track with what they were hoping for, and I've been able to go every time 15 minutes at a time, and I'm feeling strong. So the projections of where we're supposed to be are about right on.
We can mark the time.
For this?
Oh, that actually come back now. It's 30.
It's good curves. This is what I watch during surgery all the time.
This actually, is a completely different way of breathing. It's very hard work, actually, because I've got to just time my intake of my own breath with what the diaphragm pacing is doing. And if I miss, then I don't get a full shot of air.
Oh, that was normal. This is 800 microseconds.
73. In the 8 years he was on a ventilator, Chris had no sense of smell. No air entered through his mouth and nose. With the ventilator removed and Chris breathing with a pacemaker, his ability to smell should have returned.
I challenge the doctors. The next time I'll keep my eyes closed and you go find 3 different objects, pass them under my nose, and I've got to identify them at the end of the session, just something to break up the boredom.
Eyes closed. Okay, eyes closed, Chris. Put it up on his nose, okay?
Coffee, very good.
Anybody else okay? Can you do it okay with anything else? Just put on your nose.
You got it right.
It's cool. It's very, very bizarre. It's like to have a whole system, just with the power turned off, and then someone flicks a switch, then it comes back on. When people come close, I can get a sense of, certainly can tell whether they've showered or not.
95-70.
Mint.
I don't think
Just about 60.
at the beginning of my injury back in 95 that I ever would realize how much one thing would matter, like ability to smell, or ability to eat, or now we're working on the ability to breathe. Because I was looking at the big picture, which is, okay, what's the quickest research that's going to get me up and out of here and like back on a horse or living my life? That was the first thing. But over time, while you still work on those big goals, the little increments, the little changes, like what it'll be like to get off this vent, to be free of this thing at some point, to be able to smell. I'm surprised by how satisfying those little discoveries are.
What the bloating does, though, compresses your lungs and you're getting more atelectasis. And that's
Coming off the ventilator was to be a gradual process, and it would take some time for Chris to master the new breathing technique. In the meantime, his campaign work also kept him busy. In May, the Christopher Reeve Paralysis Act was put before Congress. This legislation aims to improve government support for many with disabilities.
I'll be supporting the legislation.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
It would affect 2 million Americans who are living with paralysis, caused by all sorts of reasons, and it helps with research, helps the quality of life, helps the rehabilitation, but most importantly, it sends a message that the federal government cares about 2 million Americans living with that condition.
Chris hoped the legislation would accelerate nationwide funding for embryonic stem cell research and help find a potential cure for paralysis and other conditions like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and multiple sclerosis.
I'm being prepared here.
Well, we all.
There is still no federal policy on stem cells. Therefore, no funding for the nation's researchers who want to use stem cells. 70% of the American public has no problem with stem cell research in all its forms, and yet it's absolutely stalled in the Senate. Because of special interest groups. And unfortunately, that's how it works. Meanwhile, countries around the world, led by the UK Sweden, Israel, Australia, and Singapore. They're going ahead, full blast.
Isn't that true? Suffered spinal cord injuries.
Although Chris worked tirelessly to raise support, he also faced criticism, not only on the stem cell issue, but also from some in the disabled community itself, who have different views about living with disability.
There are some people who just really don't dare to hope. And there's some people who also say, if you say I should be cured, then you're implying that there's something wrong with me. And being disabled is actually fine. There's nothing wrong with me, so don't try to fix me. I'm not going to pretend to understand that. And yet I respect people, however they deal with the incredible difficulty of living with a disability. And yet I feel I need to make the choices that I think, yes, are best for myself, for my family, also the most helpful for people who want change. Huge difference, and I'm very honored that it's coming about. Thank you.
The act will need approval from the House, the Senate, and the President, which will take time. Back at home, Chris had to get used to breathing with the pacemaker.
It's funny, I still feel a little jolt on each breath as he let go of his fire. So I go try some steps and see if I can.
Despite his improvement, Chris knew it was only a small step on a long road to recovery. On the anniversary of his accident, he reflected on his progress.
Today being the 27th, and 8 years, I do, every now and again I do the math, and I think, okay, I was 42 when I was injured, now I'm 50. So when I'm 51, 52, how long is it really going to be till human trials? Will it happen here, or will I have to go overseas? What will that mean? Are we talking 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? The fear that I have is I don't want to be a senior citizen when I'm cured. Just to get up and then crawl around in my old age. So I have to admit that gnaws on me a bit. Just down the gate and off.
His continuing frustration with the pace of research in the United States led him to look abroad.
Not necessarily.
In late summer, Chris was invited to Israel, a country at the forefront of research into spinal injury. He made the 5,500-mile journey.
But this is a trip I really, really want to make, because I think to be there with people who have suffered a spinal cord injury because of violence, and to be there to show support, that's a privilege. It really is. It's an extraordinary statistic that per capita there are more spinal cord injuries in Israel than any other country in the world. Israel also has very, very proactive rehab facilities, excellent medical schools and teaching hospitals, and an absolutely first-rate research infrastructure.
During an intensive visit, Chris toured leading research centres, hospitals and rehabilitation clinics. Allen Pediatric Hospital is one of the world's leading specialists in the intensive rehabilitation of children with a broad range of disabilities.
total, we take care of 19 children with tracheostomy or ventilation needs at a time, and we're oversubscribed. And one of our biggest problems is being able to maintain our facility for new patients. Congenital muscle weakness.
Chris met a number of children, many of whom live with similar injuries to his own.
Children usually don't survive beyond the age of 1.
It's widely known that some regeneration of the spinal cord can occur in the young.
A year and a half after her initial...
that's fantastic.
And she's here, at the moment now she's here just...
In one particular case, he saw the amazing results that can be achieved with specialized physical therapy.
Did you get a booster
yes. That is so wonderful.
She's a C1 too.
That's what I was. That's what I am.
But she was incomplete.
And I'm incomplete also. But I'm not yet off the ventilator. And not walking it, but to see you walking is that's wonderful.
Nice to see you.
It was, how long have you been injured? How many years have you been injured? How long? 7? Yeah. For me, it's 8. But that is so amazing.
She's really one of
you must have worked very, very hard. You must work very hard. That's... But congratulations, getting out of the wheelchair. That is so great. Unbelievable.
Researchers in Israel believe they've made a major breakthrough in the recovery of people with spinal cord injuries, using a new technique that falls outside stem cell research. If this treatment is carried out within the first 14 days of injury, or the acute phase before serious degeneration occurs, chances of recovery are much higher.
Scientists have figured out how to use cells that already exist in the body, called macrophages, which come to the site of injury, to take those cells and then to re-inject them into the site of the injury, so they'll clean up the damage and create an atmosphere or conditions for repair. A study was done. Hello. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. These 2 fellows, they had the macrophages therapy.
First of all, to either of you, when was the macrophage surgery done?
I did it 2.5 years ago, and Hashem, I guess, did it 3 months before me.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I have a very good feelings.
Sensory recovery, good sensory recovery.
All over my body, especially in my
butt. In your butt?
Yeah,
right.
And it's very good, and sometimes I can move my toe. But
Hashem doesn't speak English at all. He speaks very well Arabic, but not English. He more or less the same pattern. He gets sensory recovery, and afterward he starts to move legs, and now he's able to stand up between parallel bars and able to perform some steps on parallel bars.
After having been a C6? That is incredible.
Hashim, injured 2 years ago, had no movement below the chest. Following the new macrophage treatment, he's recovering.
And I know that now they're doing the surgery on people in the acute phase of injury. But I think it won't be a long time before they'll be able to work on people like me who have been injured for a long time. That is truly extraordinary. I have never seen someone who has already not only been through a human trial, but has had that much success. And I've been injured for 8 years, so I tell you, seeing you just is almost overwhelming.
As their trip drew to a close, Chris and Matthew travelled to Jerusalem's Old City, and the Western Wall. Throughout their stay, the reception had been astounding, never more so than here.
You are a source of inspiration to many. I will never to give up and to give in. And I wish and pray that you will have also inspiration from this holy place, and I don't want it to stop.
Thank you so much for your welcome.
Please, let Mr. Reeve has his privacy.
In keeping with tradition, Chris asked Matthew to place a prayer in the wall.
Research progresses more rapidly in Israel than almost anywhere else I can think of. The decision they made about stem cells, where they had a debate and decided that secular law must prevail over religious teachings, something that we need to learn in the United States. Very much focused on where we are today, on the breakthroughs in science, and living in the moment. I'm really glad I'm in that place. Through autumn and winter, failing health saw Chris's travelling and campaigning come to a halt. I was hoping that they'd put in the electrodes, test that they worked, and I go home and I just breathe more and it would be a steady graph upwards. That was very naive.
Chris's diaphragm pacemaker was causing problems. He had fluid on his lungs and pneumonia. In December, Dr. Onders visited Chris's home.
After each setback, you have to start the retraining. I don't think your lungs are ready. So there's still probably some swollen with fluid. I mean, to get that much fluid off. So, that's just peripheral, and that goes back. The lungs is actually the hardest thing to get out. Even though all your hand swelling goes down and everything, the lung swelling is...
Somebody with an injury as devastating as Chris, being a quadriplegic, you're actually walking like a tightrope. I mean, if something goes wrong, it affects your whole body. And Chris had something that went wrong, and he developed an infection. Because of that, certain aspects, his intestines weren't working normally, and therefore the usual medications we'd give to keep him on that balance, everything got a little off of whack.
So you're going to get intermittent. This is just going to spit out.
How often do you think it'll open up?
It'll probably open up every 3 to 4 weeks.
Chris's infections could have been due to an allergic reaction to the silk stitching used during his pacemaker surgery.
You'll never clear the staph. from this. You can't clear. We're using a type of suture, which is how we tie things together and sew people together, that we actually don't use much anymore because it can be a focus for just a very low-grade infection. For most people, it won't be a problem. In this case, we now have a small wound that we have to deal with. You guys keeping this covered, or what do you guys put on?
We are.
Yeah, just the dry tube.
The site where the coil of extra wire is, where there's slack wire is stored, just suddenly opened up and became infected. It closed up again, thought things were fine, it started to get better, and then it opened up again. So right now it's infected again.
Ending like 9 hours sets with tidal volumes above 1,000.
So you're back to where you were in September or so?
Yeah.
So if there's a resistance...
These infections would be an ongoing problem for Chris and would limit use of the pacemaker. A huge setback.
Our stimulator will tell us if there's any significant change in it.
But it's not all he had to contend with. A CAT scan showed the need for further concern.
I looked at this that's why I was examining you. And you can see that's calcifications, that white there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's real low. That's right down here, and this is again on your left side. Yeah, I'm not sure why you have it. You can see it all the way around that rectus on the left there.
There's no trauma on the right side at all. I mean, if you feel down by my right hip bone, the side of my right thigh, you're going to feel
that.
Probably you're going to feel the bone. All through my hip area has been massive bone growth due to the fact that I'm on tremendous amount of calcium to overcome osteoporosis. That's HO that's functioning. Now the bones are pressing against the skin at my hip to the point where I can't lie on my side for more than 15 or 20 minutes at a time. What it's doing is stabilizing the leg so that when I range, the leg doesn't want.
The scan also confirmed something that Chris had long suspected. 3 years ago, he'd dislocated a hip during a treadmill session.
That's your right femoral head right in there. That's your left, just chronically out.
The legs are getting lean. The day I get in my feet and need a hip replacement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. If you're trying to walk with a dislocated hip,
everything is always in a state of flux. Everything is always changing. The last 3 months, I haven't even been able to get on the bicycle. I'm having to start over again. I can't go in the pool because no way you can go in the pool with a hole that keeps opening and closing in your chest all the time. So now all those movements I was making in the pool, it's all gone.
No more silk suture stuff.
Yeah. I feel that I'm treading water. So one department will improve, another department will, fall apart. It really is like the performance artist who puts 5 plates, each one on a different stick, gets them all going, but you just watch that guy running back and forth trying to keep all 5 plates spinning. It doesn't get any easier. And also, I don't want to be too melodramatic about it, but I'm 51 and the clock's ticking. It's hard to stay patient.
By springtime, following a difficult winter and serious illness, things began to get back on track.
It was a very tough winter. Pretty much December was all about the hospital and trying to get better. And at the hospital then, he got some more sacral wounds, which are very hard to get rid of. Pressure sores, skin breakdown, and it can really completely alter your quality of life. and it did for him. He had to spend really limited time up, going to bed at 6 o'clock. We would try to keep it cheerful, have dinner in the bedroom and things like that. But it was very, very tough, and it was a cold winter, so we couldn't get out much. It was very long. I'm happy it's spring.
Improving health allowed Chris to start work. In the coming months, he set about directing a film for US television. With a hectic summer ahead, Chris began the process of casting.
This is all very heavy emotional work. You're going to need to see something lighter.
What are you watching now?
I'm watching, this is a demo, a reel of...
Chris's daughter Alexandra was home from university.
It's a very, very busy time. I'm actually directing 2 movies at the same time, which is really a crazy thing to do, even if you're not sitting in a wheelchair. I'm doing a feature-length animated film called Yankee Irving. And then the other one is a movie I've been waiting to make for 3 years. It's a true story of a young girl named Brooke Ellison, who was spinal cord injured when she was 11. Hey, good morning, everybody. I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. This is a moment where Brooke is graduating from Harvard. This is the most important scene in the film.
Sean, stop.
Thank you for your patience. We'll try to do it as fast as we can. But I want to thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Okay, we'll get started. It's a story about really living with a spinal cord injury, really making the most of opportunities, not giving up, not being... not accepting being relegated to the sidelines. And I've always said I wanted to do one film about that. Yeah. And for years before the injury, I'd always wanted to direct. But then an acting job would come up, and I would take that instead of directing. So the injury forced me into directing. And I love it. Okay, guys? Yeah. Opportunities are coming my way to direct that I don't think would have come if I was on my feet. So I'm very... Yeah, and then you would wheel to that there. I'm very glad, very lucky that I'm not having to spend every waking hour of every day being an advocate or being defined by spinal cord injury.
By late summer, Chris had begun to breathe with the pacemaker again. But the continuing threat of infection stopped him from using it all the time. He still needed the ventilator.
Yeah, I'm okay. You can shut it off. Right now, I'd have to say I don't see getting off the vent with the diaphragm pacing as a goal that I can make. But I still think it was worth doing. It was a success. And I do spend at least 8, 9, 10 hours off the vent using the pacer every day. And it's very reassuring to know I'm keeping my diaphragm in shape. I'm writing with regards. 31. My recovery appears to have plateaued. I have sensation over more than 70% of my body when I was first injured. I only had sensation over 12% of my body. I'm in very good health, but it hasn't turned into an improvement in function that would really change my life. Unfortunately, I suffered some setbacks, but I feel very confident that I'm strong enough through all the rehab and the exercises I continue to do, then I'll be prepared for whatever medical intervention comes my way.
Despite his own setbacks, Chris always remained resolute that advanced science would ultimately provide a cure.
What'll be done tomorrow is going to be determined by politics, by funding, and by the international cooperation of scientists. If you become paralyzed today, there's now a good chance that that won't be your future. Scientists in one part of the world are now talking to scientists in other parts of the world. That's going to accelerate the treatments and cures, and it's both frustrating and exciting at the same time. Frustrating because you want it to happen tomorrow, but exciting because with proper funding, tomorrow is not going to be too far away.